You know the song, you recognize the song? I tell you, you make one mistake, they put a TV show about it, you can never live it down.
This is awesome.
So this little creek here that we're starting out on, this is actually called Sockasty Creek. Sockasty Creek. The Indians of the area, they named it that. It was probably in the 1800s in South Carolina, dozens of small Indian tribes. But we kind of lumped the Indians together in this area. We just called them the Sockasty Indians because there was probably 7 or 8 in this area. But this creek, wow, you can watch it. It meanders back and forth. So if you look straight ahead of us, the creek's going to go through. It's going to go around that little island, and then come back and then cross back over again. Now the Indians used this creek to move up and down the area, fishing, hunting, that type of thing. But right here in front of us, what happened here, this is called the Intracoastal Waterway. And this is a man-made waterway. As a matter of fact, this is the longest portion of the man-made waterway. It's about 22 miles long. This didn't exist. They dug this to a depth of 9 foot. So now you can bring commercial barges up through here. They use this a lot. Sometimes go out into the ocean and suffer through the weather. They bring them to the icy helps. If you look on either side of the boat, you're going to see a dark line on the trees where it's wet. At the top of that dark line, that's the high tide line. The high tide line. This river, it is tidal affected. The Waccamaw River is tidal affected. Matter of fact, the Indians named it the Waccamaw River because it means to and fro, going from here to there, like a loose translation. A lot of people ask us about the water here. Another neat thing about this area is this is 100% fresh water. Now the reason for that is if you go down the river about 22 some odd miles, 22, 25 miles to Winyah Bay in Georgetown, there's an inlet there. Then behind us, another 22 and some odd miles, Little River Inlet. So when the ocean tides come in, they only push that salt water in about 4 to 6 miles. So this portion in between stays 100% fresh water. I'm going to make a right turn up here up into this next creek. If you look over to the left, you'll see there's a launch ramp over there. And the launch ramp over there, this is called Enterprise Landing. Again, in the 1800s, early 1900s, a gentleman had an enterprise running out of there where he brought goods. He had a ferry boat. He brought goods and stuff from the little town of Conway. And he would use this creek, which is right straight ahead of us here, Enterprise Creek, which will run into the Waccamaw River, which we'll do shortly. Gotcha. Don't want to run the road. So he would run up to the little town of Conway, which some of you guys let it grow through on the way here to Myrtle Beach. And again, he would pick up some logs, they would transfer turpentine, and then sometimes he would pick up tourists to bring them to the beach. Back in those days, you didn't have Highway 544, you didn't have 501, of course. So the only way to get to the beach was have him bring them down and drop them off here at Enterprise Landing, and then they would hire a horse and buggy to bring them the rest of the way to the beach. So if you look straight ahead, this is the beginning of that Sockasty Creek that we started out on, the very beginning. As a matter of fact, back to the Conway Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach the name didn't come into play until around the 1930s. This wasn't even incorporated until around 1956. So over here off to our right, you're going to see these leaves that are floating on top of the water. These are called cow lilies. Cow lilies. And in springtime, we'll start having some little yellow flowers that will pop up through there called spatterdock. But we haven't seen them yet. But cow lilies. The reason I'm telling you about this stuff is because every time you see this, it's shallow. That denotes shallow water. It's probably now at this tide, it may be only 2 feet deep there. So it'll vary from a foot to 2 feet deep, 3 feet deep. The important thing about that is this is where a lot of the birds like to hunt, which means this is where the alligators are going to be also. So we'll keep our eyes open every time we see this stuff for alligators. Also, as we're traveling along here, we'll look towards the sides of the boat, look on the logs, back into the woods. This is where we're going to see our turtles. We should see a lot of turtles today as the sun starts to come out and starts to warm up a little bit. They should be coming out. But keep looking back through there. You can see white-tailed deer at times, fox, raccoons. You never know what you're going to see. Look over to the left, sailboat, some of the sailboat there up in the water.
Oh yeah.
I understand there's a beautiful sailboat there. What had happened here was there was a powerboat that had some engine trouble. And this was probably 15, 20 years ago. And they towed it here and they anchored it here because this is out of the channel, not in anybody's way. So they anchored it there. And then the sailboat broke loose in a storm. And they actually brought it back to this guy's dock and he refused to take it back. So they brought it over here and tied it up to the powerboat and anchored it. It wasn't but a few days later the powerboat caught on fire and burnt both of them up. So down there on the right side of the boat is also a powerboat that's under the water. And it'll sit there. The Coast Guard's not going to do anything about it. It's not in the way. It's not causing any damage or anything. Yeah. As we're traveling along, if you look at the water off to the side, and you can see the bow wind, you'll notice that the water is from the ground. People think that it's nasty, dirty looking water. It's really not. The water's very clean here. Since the tide rises and falls, the water goes in and out of the swamp. It actually filters the water. The coloration is coming from these trees. These tall trees are all cypress trees. It's coming from those trees out here, the blue heron. Flying down the river. They're just starting to come back, guys. That's probably maybe the second one I've seen all season. He'll keep tracking with us down the river and stay ahead of us. Cool. So anyway, the water's brown, so you got the fall cypress trees and this dead vegetation. They leach a tannic acid into the water. It's the same thing that when you take a cup of boiling water, you dip a tea bag into it, and it turns the water brown. Exactly the same thing that's happening here. Tannic acid. The only thing that the river will do is if you go in, stay in your clothes. If you go over the white bathing suit, it's going to come out brown. The water is clean. And again, these cypress trees, these are the tall trees that are around here. They can get
Oh yeah, see.
They grow to 50 feet tall. There goes our blue deer. Back up Which means he's gonna fly. Where are we looking? Oh yeah, there we go. Yep, there we go. Good eye. Yeah, that's a real good eye. So this bird here is going to be associated with this nest. You see 3 tall trees over here on the right. Now they're talking to each other. You'll see these 3 tall trees on the right. The middle tree at the top is a nest, an osprey nest. This osprey over here on our left is the male. The reason I know that is because the female is in the nest.
You see the nest?
You may just see her head pop up
In the middle tree?
if you have binoculars or that kind of a thing. The reason I know this is the female is in the nest and she has laid eggs. But every time we've come by now for the past week, she's been down in the nest, sitting on the eggs. If there were no eggs there, she would be up flying around or she'd be standing on the edge of the nest. You can see her.
Oh yeah, just barely.
That looks like her
And you see a
tail.
little head, tail.
That's her tail.
Her tail's
That's her tail sitting on the edge. And this is her mate that's over here across the river that you guys spotted. Now the reason I knew that this bird that you guys saw without even looking, I knew it wasn't an eagle because there's no eagles in this area. Just very rarely will an eagle come in because eagles and ospreys they don't get along. Ospreys will drive them out. But a lot of people mistake them for eagles. Matter of fact, some people call them sea eagles or sea hawk. They used to be members of the hawk family, but now they're so prolific that they've got their own family. So they're in the osprey family. So they've come back. You got a turtle over there? We'll be seeing lots of turtles. That's a yellow belly slider. They get that name because they usually will slide off into the water.
It's on the
But
wall.
we'll see lots of turtles.
Yeah. All right, so this bird up here, he's come back from his she's come back from migration. She is sitting on eggs right now. And again, the reason we know that because she's down in the nest, and she'll lay anywhere from 3 to 5 eggs. And she doesn't lay them all at once. She'll lay an egg, and then 3-4 days, a week later, lay another egg. This is the reason that all the chicks don't survive because you got a chick hatching on week 1. He's got 4 or 5 weeks of growth to the chick that hatched on week 4, and so they get trampled or they may get actually flipped out of the nest, so they don't all survive. Sometimes none survive. And now we've got to know the nest pretty well. There was a couple last year where there were survivors, and of course there was a couple others that had 3, which is a lot. So what these birds do, when I say they went down for their migration, they in the fall. This is a turkey vulture up here. In the fall, so then this is maybe varietal. In the fall, after the babies are fledged out of the nest, they will go down and the female will leave first, so she'll leave around August. And she goes as far south as Florida or sometimes even South America. And then about a month or 2 later, the male will follow and he'll go down somewhere down in Florida or South America. The fledglings, they'll stay hanging around here for another couple of months, and then they'll fly south, and they'll be down in Florida or South America. They'll stay down there for a couple of years, and get their strength built back up and find a mate or whatnot. When it comes time to come back, the birds come back, and the crazy thing about an osprey is they will arrive. There's one nest where they arrive within a day of each other, not knowing when the other one left, and not knowing where the other one went. And they mate for life. And since they take separate vacations, we figure that's why they mate. This could be a great white eagle flying in front of us over here. birds, when these eggs do hatch, that female's going to, like she's going to sit there on that nest, and she is not going to leave that nest until these eggs are hatched. That's why I know that's the male. Because the female is not going to leave. Once they're hatched, the male will start bringing in fish. Now, here's another cool thing about an osprey. It's one of the only birds of prey that have articulating talons. So when he goes down and scoops a fish up, behind that fish, so he's flying with the head first. So it's aerodynamic. He'll take that fish, he'll land on a tree, hopefully we'll see that tonight, so he'll eat that fish. He'll take the head off and kill the fish. Why does he want to kill the fish? If he brings the fish back to the nest, and there's eggs in there, and it's alive, it'll bounce around and break eggs. Or if the fledglings are there, it can flip the fledglings right out of the nest. So when he brings the fish up, here's another little thing that the ospreys do, where we can kind of tell what's happening in the nest. If the female's there, she just starts picking apart the fish and eating it herself. We know she's still sitting on the eggs. How do we know when the eggs have hatched? Because the fledglings are still small, they're down in the nest. When she starts peeling off pieces of that fish and her head starts dipping down into the nest, she ain't feeding eggs, right? So she's feeding the offspring. Pretty soon the offspring will start to come up out of the nest, and they'll be up there and they'll be flapping their wings, and the mother will be up there flapping her wings, and they want to emulate this and strengthen her wings. Got another nest over here too. Very at the very top.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that.
So go ahead and head down river a little bit. So this nest over here, this is only a couple years old, and we believe that this is offspring from this nest back here, because the ospreys will not let just any other bird come into their area. So we're pretty sure that this is offspring from back there. So they came back and built a nest, and they had 2 hatchlings last year. They did have 2 hatchlings. So anyways, so once the birds are out and they're stretching their wings, you'll see them. The mama bird will actually force the fledgling out on another turtle.
Yeah.
Slid into the water.
Yep.
So she'll force them out of the nest and like onto the end of a branch, and she'll place herself between the nest and the fledgling. We'll let them back in. So they're out there flapping, they're practicing. One day we'll come by and all of a sudden they'll lift off that branch. They'll come up about a foot and they'll settle back in. We know that they're getting ready. And then the next day, they'll come out and they'll fly up, and they'll settle down, and they'll fly up, and then they'll take a move. We've seen it a couple of times, like their first flight. And they land, they're like excited. I mean, there's turtles over here.
Oh, yeah.
Probably after they do that first flight, probably like a week later, these guys have their fly out really fast. They're like, they know the normal take one day, then once they're hitting one day, right turn back up the river, about 15 miles to that little town of Pontiac. We'll check out Passenger, Longboard, Turpentine. If we head down this way, this is the way down to Georgetown. This river's name is one of the 100 most beautiful rivers in the U.S. It's a beautiful river. Nowadays, you can't buy any plants. In the old days, just buy land along the river bank, build a house, whatever. Nowadays, a lot of it's all protected. They're not letting you cut anything down. A lot of the houses. Probably going to be some more turtles over here. Come on. Oh. So this part of the river, believe it or not, is about 25 to 30 feet deep. It doesn't seem like it's this deep. This is the natural river. Once we hook back up into the ICW, another bird back there? Yep. That's a fairly new nest too. Then it's going to be 9 feet deep at low tide. That's what they have to do.
over here, I can't tell.
So the Waccamaw is going to vary between 15 feet. If you start heading up towards Waccamaw Bay, 40 feet, 5 feet, you'll bring larger boats and ships in that are bigger. Yeah, a lot of people are surprised by that. You would think that it would be that deep. We're going to pull in here real slow. We have seen alligators in this area before on the left. There are some turtles up there. How many turtles we got up there, Michelle? On that log. Looks like I can see 3 at least. But what I really wanted you guys to look at in this area is this tree here. You see this bald cypress tree that looks all messed up? So what's going on there is this tree got struck by lightning. I'm not sure. Guess what? Yeah, I'm not sure. You know how long ago? It could have been 50 years, 80 years, 100 years. We don't know. But that tree was probably 3 times as tall as that, according, by looking at the diameter of the base. So the lightning took off the top 2/3 of the tree. It blew out the insides of the tree. But if you look at the top of this tree is still alive and is doing well. And it's like, what in the world? Well, what happens with a cypress tree is they don't get their nutrients from just the inner portion of that bark. They get it from the cambium layer of bark, which is the inner layer of bark. All the nutrients come up through there. So that's why this tree has got messed up, but it's still hanging in there. And then if you look down at the bottom of that tree, today's a good day to see it because the tide's down. You'll see these little pointy things sticking up out of the water. Little pointy things. That's part of the cypress tree. Those are.
Oh, it looks like a snake.
Where's that? You see a snake? Is it a snake?
Well, yeah, you don't see it now, but yeah.
It was a snake. If it was a snake, it was probably brown water snake. They're non-venomous. They're actually kind of good to have around. So back to the knees. So these cypress knees, the roots grow down into the swamp, and then they come back and start to grow up. Now, in the 50s, woodworkers used to come out and cut these knees, and then they would, the burl inside is really beautiful. They would carve, they would make toys, duck decoys, this
Is that
type of
turtles
stuff.
over there?
But when they cut them, it would kill the tree. So they outlawed that because remember, these trees take 1,000 years to grow, so it's not a replenishable resource. And that brings us to this tree here with a white sign on it. That white sign says it's all part of the Waccamaw Natural Wildlife Refuge.
There's holes in it.
But if you see that tree's got 5 holes in it.
Yep.
5 holes. See the holes? So those holes are made by the pileated woodpecker. And those are nesting holes. Pileated woodpecker is the largest woodpecker, the woodpecker family. He's the one that got the red head with the black. If you're familiar with Woody Woodpecker, that's what Woody Woodpecker was modeled after. Pileated woodpecker. So what happens when the woodpeckers find a mate? Get up here. When they do find a mate, they'll find a tree and they will poke a hole out of the tree. The female will come over, she'll take a look at this hole and inspect it.
Oh, there's a
And if it ain't right, if it ain't up to the standards,
dock over there running a walkway.
gotta drill another hole. And he'll keep doing it until she finds one she likes. And once she finds one she likes, again, she'll lay 3 to 5 eggs in there. It takes about 4 to 5 weeks for those birds to hatch out and flush out of the nest. But next year, when these birds come back, the male's got to do another hole. And he figures being lazy like we are. Well, she liked that tree last year. I'll pop another hole on top of the hole that was there last year. So he puts another hole in it. She comes and inspects the hole, sure enough, she accepted that hole. The usual thing about this tree here, on our trip, you'll see holes or trees with 1 hole, 2 holes, 3 holes. Never seen another tree with 5 holes in it. So we call that the house. Queens up there. But it's real unusual, real unusual. And the woodpeckers, you'll find if you guys have them, I don't care where you live, if you're in the United States, somewhere you got woodpeckers. Somewhere you got woodpeckers. Typically it's a pilot. So if you take a look, right here is the natural, this is the natural Waccamaw River. Now we're going to connect. This over here is the man-made section that was done. So we're going to connect to that section. So right here we're about 20 feet deep. And actually when we go out, we're going to get a hump. The hump here is going to be 9 feet deep. What people ask about these houses about this is Cypress River Plantation. It's one of the few developments that has a plantation in its name that really was a plantation back in the day in my place. What's happening here? Literally gone. So what's happened, 2003, 2004, developer came in here and bought all these lots. And as you can see, you can't tear down any of these trees. So the first thing he did was build lots, docks, cut out. That's the most desirable part of the land. He finished all that up about 2007. Alright, so right here we're gonna take a slow right. If you look straight ahead, you see this island right here. Well, before 1930, that wasn't an island, that was land. Our engineer that was right through there. This is the natural flow of the river. Now instead of having to maneuver through and around. Somebody about how we travel down back and forth along the East Coast. A lot of transient waters here in England. You can see how calm it is back here. And they'll spend the night or maybe spend 2 or 3 days before they start heading north again or south again. Everybody asked me about the cross. Probably 4 years ago, a family came out here and they anchored their boat, a little speedboat. And then there was one for a swim. The gentleman had a really good drinking boat. So, the moral of the story, whenever you anchor someplace, if you're not familiar with the water, and even if you are, because things move here under the water, this river changes all the time. Where? Where do you see him? I'm not seeing him. On the nest or on the tree?
There?
You see him?
I don't know.
I'm not seeing the
Oh
middle
yeah.
tree.
Yeah, right there.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. See how they're very camouflaged. And she's not.
See?
Oh yeah, I see him now.
Yeah, so this is the this is the male. And really this is really the only way
Female.
to be able to tell the male from the female is this time of year. If she's on the nest, you know that's the female. If they're side by side, you can tell the male and the female because the female is going to be the bigger bird, which is pretty normal with birds of prey. Otherwise, you can't tell.
Oh yeah.
She's saying there's stranger danger.
There she is.
Oh, there she is.
So back to swimming in the water. So, you know, if you guys want to swim in a river like this, you just ease in feet first and kind of inspect the area around your boat to make sure that there's nothing underwater that you're going to jump in and hit. So this nest here, this has a pretty interesting story behind it. 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now actually, this nest got blown off by a hurricane. It was gone. It just took the whole nest off the tree. Now the cool thing about the ospreys is when they come back, they'll always come back to the same nest on the same tree. Even if the tree gets blown up or the nest gets blown off the top of the tree, they come back to the same nest. So these guys came back and there was no nest. So we watched them and they were like, man, what happened to our nest? And so they just kind of hung around, and pretty soon he said, well, we got to build a nest. So they started to work and built this nest. So this nest is only a few years old. But they just got something that's imprinted in their genetics that come back to that same tree, to that same nest. Now there is an exception here on the river, which is kind of cool for you guys, and I'll show it to you. Now this next tree we're coming up on, this is another bald cypress.
Yeah.
There's a brown or a yellow belly slider right down at the bottom of it. We call this the Harry Potter tree. Harry Potter tree. It looks like it's come out of a Harry Potter movie. So what I want you to notice about this tree is you'll see that there's a crack at the top. There's a crack in the middle, and there's a crack down towards the bottom. As I ease by this tree, you're going to be able to look right through this tree.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
See that? You can see right through that tree. So this tree also got hit by lightning. The top got blown off. The back side got blown out. Part of the front side looked like it got blown out, but it's still alive. You see it's greening up. Still alive, doing fine. And that was a pretty big tree when it was, before it got hit. And you look at the size of the base.
There's a turtle on this log over here.
Yeah.
So a lot of people ask me about the lumps of bumps on the tree. What that is, that's a fungus on the tree. So in the 1800s, when they were coming through here and logging,